Hi, I'm Melissa Bell, and welcome to the Business Roundup, where we catch up with the movers and shakers in the business world. Today, joining me is Margaret Iuculano. She's the president of Christian Employer Alliance. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for inviting me, Melissa.
So, for people out there who do not know what the Christian Employer Alliance is, can you explain a little bit about what you do?
Sure. The Christian Employers Alliance represents Christian CEOs, business owners across the country uh, on policy issues that impact their businesses, as well as we defend them through litigation through our legal attorney network. Mostly being Alliance Defending Freedom is our attorneys, and we represent our businesses. And when we win those cases, injunctions get filed, and all of our members are protected federally under those injunctions, regardless of where they live in the country. So it's a
Oh,
lot of work.
yeah, definitely. That's wonderful. So, it could be various parts of the business operation.
Right. And so one of the cases that we've got multiple cases going on right now, but one of the cases I can talk about because we won last year. And businesses all across the country. And then, of course, it really impacts Christian business owners because it violates their values. They're forced in their insurance policies to pay for late term abortion and transgender surgeries. So, the case that we won federally now is an injunction in place and it protects them, and they do not have to pay for those things that violate their values and through their insurance policies. So, that's kind of what we're known for. And we tell, and the country should be part of our alliance just for the injunction protection, if not for all the other work we do. And then we also advocate for them on the Hill in DC. Obviously, anything that's going to impact a business. We are looking heavily for religious freedom issues, such as that, that violates religious freedom issues. And there's more of that than you can ever imagine. So we've got our hands full on that. But we also are big proponents for things that allow Christian businesses, like any business, right, to be able to receive tax credits and be able to expand their operation. And, we believe that business is the heart of America. So sometimes we take on family issues, sometimes we take on faith issues, but at the end of it all, it impacts the way that it impacts the business is what we're looking for.
Okay. And this is mainly like smaller businesses?
So we do have small business, but most businesses with 25 or more employees are the folks that would be in our alliance. We actually have big businesses. We have a business that has over 45,000 employees. That's part of our alliance, and so we range on that. But a business owner is really impacted by regulations, insurance, workers' comp, and all of these other issues when they reach that 25 employee threshold.
Okay, so that's when they're really seeing the effects. And I'm sure now you've seen a lot of changes. I mean, I guess in your opinion, before we get into the big, beautiful bill, but have you seen some changes? Because where we were before, it was like super heavy regulation, lots of red tape with different things happening. Have you seen that kind of starting to like get a little bit more streamlined, things changing, or not really?
Well, definitely things are changing, and just with President Trump coming out with the executive orders, those of us who work on the Hill and work in policy understand that the minute he's out of office, the executive order goes away, right? And so we're working diligently behind the scenes with many other organizations across the country to actually get these bad policies reversed and codified. And so we don't have to worry about them in the future. But a lot of times that requires litigation or a complete reversal of the policy. And that takes a lot of time. That's not something that can happen overnight. And I just use the EEOC as an example. There's 5 commissioners in the EEOC. They create a lot of regulations and issues that violate Christian values for the last 5 years. And President Trump fired 2 of those commissioners, and he put in one new commissioner. And in order for anything to be reversed and changed, there we need the quorum of 5. And so we have to now wait for the litigation of can he technically fire those 2, right? Before we can replace them. And so we're still lawfully bound by those regulations that are still in place.
So it's kind of like a little bit of a not an uphill battle, but you have a lot of things to kind of go through still to make those changes kind of permanent.
Absolutely.
Now, the big beautiful bill, which that's making news too. I mean, you have like Elon Musk. That's I don't know, walking away, and then they're making. I don't know if that really had anything to do with the big beautiful bill, but what what does this bill like encompass when it comes to like businesses? I know there's a lot of things like kind of, I don't know, like not take the place, but kind of step in for the job acts,
Hmm.
correct?
Hmm. Yeah, so the Job Tax Credit Act is just one of many pieces of the Big Beautiful Bill, and the Big Beautiful Bill is called the Big Beautiful Bill because it has just tons of issues thrown into one package, and it's usually you don't usually see a bill of that size and nature. All try to go through one passing, so that's creating a lot of the controversy and a lot of the complications. Is just the amount of policy issues that reside in that bill. We at Christian Employers Alliance have been on the front end of this since the beginning. We're heavily focused on the jobs tax piece of it. The jobs tax piece, obviously, is what's going to impact our businesses. And so you have things that came into play in 2017 that are now all expiring in 2025. So there's at the end of this year. So there's a really, really big, fast and furious push to try to get these things extended. We are trying. We're from Christian employers side, I spend more time trying to make them permanent because just extending them for a couple of years just means we have to go through this whole battle again in a couple of years. And when it comes to business and doing things like allowing businesses to make investments and do 100% expensing on those investments instead of the amortization schedules, those are the things we're pushing for permanency on because that allows business owners to make investments and be able to expense those items, right? When they can expense those items and it's taken out over a long amortization period, that's less investment that's going to happen. That's just less that they can afford. So that piece of it's very, very important to us. The overall job tax credit bill, which expires at the end of the year, is something that we are pushing for permanency on. We were very involved with getting it on the House floor for vote. Now it's over in the Senate hands, and anyone who watches the media sees everybody's going to have a say. Everybody wants a say. There is a piece of every bill, no matter who you are, that someone's going to be for, somebody's going to be against. It's just how God created us all. We all have a different thought process, right? And I can tell you that what the senators tell us, and we are up there. We do meet with them every month. They said we all agree with the end result. It's just how do we get there? So the infighting and all the things that we see in media is, I tell people just don't watch it because behind the scenes, people agree that these things need to take place. It's just how do we get there? And when you have a package of that nature that's talking about jobs tax credits and it's talking about Medicaid and it's talking about nonprofit donations and family foundations, how they should be taxed. I mean, you're now throwing a lot of different issues into a bill, and obviously, you're going to have some controversy.
Yeah, oh, definitely, because there's
Right.
a lot of things to go over, and everybody has a different stand on it. What are some of the key elements of this bill that you think will help businesses?
Yeah, so definitely all the pieces of the jobs tax credits. You've got the R&D in there. We've got the child tax credit, which most people think is for their children, and it's actually the jobs side of the child tax credit is when an employer allows somebody to have paid time off, let's say for a mom to give birth to her child and gives them paid time off. They are able to the business is able to apply for a tax credit, right? And so it's a win-win situation instead of what a lot of the businesses who can't afford it, they just give them no paid time off. And the person either has to go out on disability or if they don't have enough PTO time. So the child tax credit is what we consider a jobs and a family bill. We think is really important, and so that's something that we're pushing for. We're pushing for increase on it just because when it was passed in 2017, the value of the dollar, everything's gotten a lot more expensive since 2017, and so we are fighting for some increases on that. And I think I've already mentioned, the R&D, which is the research and the development pieces of it, and the ability to expense and the ability to invest and grow. All of those things are things, that we're pushing for more than an extension. We would like permanence, but right now, the way the bill reads, a lot of the stuff is set for extension to 2029.
Okay. And now
Mhm.
this would be like for innovation, like what kind of things would that cover for like a business?
Well, it's capital equipment, right? And so we had an example of somebody who wanted to move his headquarters, one of his businesses from Canada into the U.S. It's going to cost him millions of dollars to do that. So the investment in that would be expensible if this new bill passed, versus it's not expensible today if he was to do it this summer or before the bill passed. So businesses across the country, big businesses that are trying to make moves and trying to bring back American manufacturing and bring back some of their companies into the U.S. They're on hold until this gets passed. Which anybody making a large investment like that, would wait, right? If they could. So it's important stuff. It's important for American manufacturing and for all businesses in the country to see a lot of these credits get extended, if not made permanent.
And this would definitely help fuel more like people opening up bigger like manufacturing or businesses here in the US instead of like outsourcing or going out of the US.
Absolutely. It also the bill brings in a good percentage of jobs, right? Because when you're making more investment, you have to hire more people, and so it definitely helps with the labor market. And obviously it helps provide better jobs for I'm not going to talk about the Medicaid side; it's very controversial, but there are millions and millions of people that are on Medicaid that are able to work, right? And so a big piece of that bill is allowing these people to transition out of the welfare system and go back to work through the SNAP program, at least a minimum of 20 hours a week, get them job skills training, get them jobs. And so, the more the business side can invest and grow, the more jobs that we'll have to ease those people, into a society to where they can work and be fulfilled, right? Because God created us that way. I mean, it's fulfilling to be able to work. So, there are pieces, of the Medicaid bill that make, complete sense, and and it ties in, more successfully when our businesses are able to grow.
Yeah, that was the other thing when I was talking to you about the national taxpayers. They were talking about it was unemployment was
Hmm.
another thing, and which I thought just made sense too. That unemployment, if you were, it should kind of be gauged by how much jobs, how many jobs are in that area. Like if you're an area that has a lot of job openings, then you shouldn't be on it for a year or whatever the 6 months. There should be a shorter time period. Whereas if you're in a place that doesn't have a lot of job openings, then it makes sense, kind of looking at
Right.
those things.
No, right. And, I don't know the number off of the top of my head because there's so many numbers attached to growth and deficit and all of the other things that are going on with this. So I wouldn't want to quote the wrong number. But, back in 2017 and the Trump administration at that time, when these credits were put into place, the investment in businesses across the country was just an incredible increase, and it's one of the reasons prior to COVID that businesses and people started flourishing because there was a lot more jobs and there was more money and there was investment, and then of course COVID came along and put a halt to all of that, and all of the growth and all of the gains up until that point got halted, and then in lots of instances just completely reversed and bankrupted so many businesses across the country as well, and so we're really excited about bringing these extensions and hopefully allowing some of these things to become permanent. And it's just good for business and it's good for America.
And as like we're kind of talking about other things, so some of the other things that you're working on as well, besides the big beautiful bill, like you'll continue to stay with that legislative process like throughout until it's actually.
Yes, absolutely. So it's over in the Senate's hands now. As you can imagine, there's a lot of meetings and a lot of discussions, and we'll be back ourselves up on the Hill in a week, leading a lot of those discussions on behalf of our Christian employers across the country, along with many other organizations. And we suspect that the Senate, you never know, things change rapidly. They change daily in this administration, but we suspect that the Senate will come up with its own version of the package, possibly send it back to the House for vote before it goes back, and we see the end of this bill. But we do expect that we'll have a lot of movement on it by the end of July.
Yeah, I hope so. That'll be good too. Like, I know you can't really like elaborate on that, but just for the taxpayers as well, I know if nothing went through, we were going to see, if you're like middle America, you were going to see some huge increases in your taxes. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, we've got to get this, definitely passed before it expires at the end of this year. And I have a lot of faith in the Senate. We've got a really incredible, talented people up there serving right now. A lot of them have come from business backgrounds. A lot of them come from faith backgrounds. We have quite a few ex-pastors serving up there, so they understand the religious freedom piece of it, which is really nice for us. And I think that they're going to do a really good job with it. And at the end of the day, nothing's 100% perfect, but I think they're going to do a pretty good job, and we're confident.
Make some good changes. And now
Yeah.
yours, it's throughout the US nationally is who you kind of like you'll okay.
We do. And we encourage faith-based businesses, people that that have come and decided I'm a Christian business and it's a different way we operate than the secular world operates, and we try to operate and we're guided by biblical principles, and we encourage all Christian businesses to come under the alliance and join us. There's no fee for them to join. All of our members do sign statement of faith. So we all have one binding document that we all agree how we want to live out our lives and how we want to treat our customers, our vendors, and our employees. And the more members we have, the louder our voice is. And many of our members have lots of issues at the state level and the federal level. So those regulations are never going to go away, and so there's always going to be a need for us to, try to stand guard and advocate on the Hill and at the state level to do what's right.
That's great. No, I really appreciate you joining us. And hopefully you can come back and talk a little bit once we see what's going to happen with it and we can see where things are going to go.
No, I would be happy to, Melissa. We've got many other issues, but this one that we're taking on, and so we could talk for a year. That's how many are out there. So happy to come back anytime.
Hi, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Business Roundup. If you haven't already, please subscribe or follow us on Instagram or YouTube. Also, feel free to leave comments below on topics you'd like us to cover. Until next time, I'm Melissa Bell.